welcome back to The Late Show, already in progress. Give it up for Louis Cato and The Late Show Band, right there.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Americans, my guest tonight is the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. Please welcome back to The Late Show, Vice President Kamala Harris. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
They know how to pronounce my name. Thank you all. Thank you. I'm very excited. Thank you.
I was thinking the same thing. What did you just notice?
I noticed that a whole lot of people know how to pronounce my name.
Well,
thank you all very
Madam Vice President,
much.
thank you so much for being here again.
It's so good to be with you, Stephen.
Always enjoyed talking to you on the show.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have the opportunity to do the show with you here tonight. 1 month from today is the election in November.
It is.
Hope everybody out there is registered and ready to vote. We got so much to get to. I'll never get to all the questions that I've got here. But before we do anything, I want to talk about the recovery from Hurricane Helene.
Yeah.
And in the light of the fact that Hurricane Milton has strengthened once again to a Category 5 hurricane and is headed for the west coast of Florida. You were down in Georgia and North Carolina, who are still in the midst of a massive cleanup and rescue and recovery efforts. Still, what do people need to know?
Well, first of all, to all of those folks in North Carolina and Georgia, please know that FEMA and the people on the ground are there to help you. You are entitled to help. There's a lot of misinformation, and I beseech you, I beg you to please not pay attention to it, because there are a whole lot of folks who are there to give you help and aid in terms of the immediate aftermath and what people need to do in terms of getting through the height of this emergency and this crisis, but also in terms of long-term help. And that means applying for it, knowing that the services are there. But I'll tell you, Stephen, I mean, there's so much devastation already from Hurricane Helene. I met a woman in Georgia who just days before lost her husband because a tree fell on their house and killed him. And I met she and her daughter days after he died. And what just upsets me so is the idea that any politician would play political games with these folks, with people who are in the midst of such suffering, loss of life, loss of their homes, loss of normalcy, and then for the sake of political gain, tell these lies in a way that is meant to make people distrust the help that is there for them to receive. It just is something we have to say, look, at some point, we have to work together. And I'll tell you, there are plenty of leaders who are working in a bipartisan way. I've talked to governors of both parties who are working in a bipartisan way to get the aid to people on the ground. And I'm going to continue to do that work.
Governor Cooper and Governor McMaster and Governor Kemp are doing what's right for the people of their state.
They are. And they should be commended. They should be commended.
This kind of manipulation is a cynical and corrupt luxury that people are using.
And it's crude. Have you no empathy, man? You know, for the suffering of other people. Have you no sense of purpose? If you purport to be a leader, to understand that being a leader means lifting people up in a time of need and not manipulating them. You know?
So your opponent...
But before we go on, if I may,
yes,
tonight, the hurricane that is about to hit Florida is extremely serious. and is predicted to be historic in proportion in terms of the damage it will cause. And I know there are a lot of tough Floridians who have waited out many hurricanes and may think that they can do the same with this one. This one's going to be different. And so I ask anybody who is watching, if you are in Florida in the predicted path of this hurricane, if you got a family member who might be, thinking they can wait it out, please get in touch with them. Tell them it's not going to be like the ones we've seen before. Please follow your local leader's instructions. And if they're telling you to evacuate, grab your stuff and get out.
Now, your campaign is one of the shortest in modern history.
Yes.
Does it feel short?
It's definitely been a whirlwind. I mean, I think, somewhere around 70 days that we've been in it. And so there's a lot of catching up to do. My opponent, the former president, has been running since 2020. And
literally filed like the day after
right.
the
So
election,
we
yes.
have a lot of time to make up for. But I'm traveling around the country. I'm spending a lot of time talking with folks, listening to folks. And the one thing I can report back from the field, if you will, is that people are exhausted by that old, tired playbook of Donald Trump's. They really are. And even if they voted for him in the past, there are a lot of folks who are just saying, enough of the rhetoric that's about trying to divide the country and have Americans point their fingers at each other. Folks are ready to turn the page. It's like, let's chart a new way forward. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of Americans, regardless of their party, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, they're ready for a new generation of leadership that is about solutions and common sense and finding common ground. And that is what I am offering.
Now, late July is when Joe Biden stepped aside to make room for you. And I don't like to brag about this, but ever since you became the nominee, you and I have been texting every day. You usually send me a text like, "Hey, Stephen, it's Kamala. For just $5, you can make a difference in this campaign. Text stop to quit." And I'll go like, because like I'll be playful. I'll go stop like that, and I don't mean it because they don't stop. I'm curious. You have a phone. Do you get texts from you?
No, my phone has so many protections around it.
Can you give me those?
No.
You can?
It's called outreach, Stephen.
Oh, I totally understand.
Campaign.
I want to talk about the debate for a second, which was one of the greatest debate performances I had ever seen anyone do, regardless of the opponent. But I want to ask about this. Can you tell us, this moment went viral from the debate, can you tell us what you're thinking at this moment right here? And keep in mind, this is CBS. So keep it clean. What was going through your mind there?
It's family TV, right? It starts with a W, there's a letter in between, and then the last letter is F.
Your economic plan includes small business tax credits, child care credits, down payment assistance, and other things. Those are the major ones people will talk about. One of the ways that you want to help pay for some of that is to have billionaires pay their fair share in taxes, okay?
And big corporations.
And big corporations.
Yeah.
There are quite a few billionaires who support you. You are from Northern California, after all, where they grow them in fields out there. Who's your favorite billionaire? Because we all have a favorite billionaire. On three. 1, 2, 3. Oprah. I'm sorry. I claimed Oprah. You can't take her now.
But in all seriousness.
Oh, no.
No, but
Not in all seriousness.
In all seriousness, we have to agree that teachers and firefighters and nurses should not be paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations.
This I agree.
Right?
This I agree.
And so, look, I'm not mad at anybody for creating wealth. Good for you. You work hard, you create wealth for you and your family. Good for you. I am a capitalist. But look, I'm also a devout public servant. I know the limitations of government, but I also know that we need to make sure that everyone is paying their fair share so that we can do the work of extending, as I intend to do, the child tax credit to $6,000 for the first year of a child's life, because that young family could use that money to buy a car seat, to buy a crib. What we need to do to bring down the cost of health care in America. We've capped the cost of insulin for our seniors at $35 a month. It's my intention to cap the cost of prescription medication for all Americans. They're paying too much. Right?
We have to take a quick break here.
Okay.
But please don't go away. We'll be right back with more Vice President Kamala Harris, everybody. Stick around.